Good morning and welcome. It's that time. Yeah, once again, happy hump day, Patriot Radio News Hour in a world that has gone completely nuts. It really is. Every day, I don't know. I don't know what tweet's going to come out or what form of economic news that's going to come out. And somehow, you know what, we're in the proverbial sweet spot where at least for the stock market, it really doesn't matter. Good news is good news. Bad news is good news. No news is good news. It's all good news. Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. Wealth insurance. When's the best time to buy insurance? Have you ever thought about it, right? When's the best time to buy it, right? The best time is to buy it before you need it. Right? Because kind of defeats the purpose of after the accident has happened, then getting it, right? Because it did you no good. So make sure this is the time. That sweet spot. Most people refer to that as the bubble, if you will, where it doesn't seem to matter. Regardless of the news. Trade war, good. Trade deal, good. Retail sales, bad or good, does not matter, right? The housing sales, bad or good, doesn't matter. Auto sales, bad or good, doesn't matter. Countries not being able to auction off their debts, doesn't matter. Nothing matters. That's the time when you want to really start buying the most insurance. And that's where we come in, because our insurance is wealth insurance. Gold and silver. Listen, if you've been one of those people like me, listen, we all do. Right? We do what we have to do because there's no more pensions, right? And the ones that have pensions, right, everybody, I would love to have one. But then I'd have to spend the whole time being worried about whether or not I'm going to get it, right? Because most of the companies that used to offer pensions did away with what we didn't know, the evil, evil, evil things that they have done to us. The 401k. One of the most evil things of all. I'm going to tell you all about it today. Our website, don't forget, I know I get all sidetracked. The website, allamericangold.com. Make it part of your daily routine. Especially in today, it's harder and harder to get the news other than what they want you to hear. Right? Nobody's surprised. Was anybody surprised that then Google or Facebook or Twitter that they try to show you I'll call it the left opinion, right? And really, it's not even the left and right. That's when we're talking about left, right, they're all the same, right? They're all the same. John McCain, and I know that he passed, and I don't want to besmirch anybody, but there's a reason why this great quote-unquote Republican was celebrated on CNN over the weekend. Okay? They're all the same. And they're trying to silence the conservative ones. Really, when you think about it, Hillary is a horrible candidate. But the reason why Trump won, and they couldn't figure it out, right? Because if you would have listened to the mainstream media, right, it wasn't even close. Hillary was winning, and it was a foregone conclusion. Of course, I came on the air right before the election and said, I think Trump's going to win Florida, South Carolina, he's going to win Michigan, right? And of course, and he did. But they're trying to silence it. They don't want you to be able to know what it is that they're doing. But this is why you tune in. We do things, and we talk about things nobody else does. And you can get all that other stuff somewhere else, right? You get your spirituality. I hope you have it. Need to have it. But you're going to get that somewhere else, right? You want to talk about politics and all that stuff, the left and the right, you can get that somewhere else, right? All as I want to try to do for all of you is to make you aware. That's it. I hope by making you aware, you decide to get some wealth insurance from us, right? Because that's how we do it, right? That's it. That's my goal. And I know for a lot of people you're aware but can't do a lot about it. Don't forget about our metals program. And you can get involved for as little as $100 a month because it's that important. Everyone's got to have some. Right? You look at, Venezuela is the easy example today, right? Obviously, if you were prepared there, you're the only one probably not having to flee the country right now. 800-951-0592 is our toll-free number. We got one of these weird markets. So I don't know which side of it is, but gold's up either $4.20 today or it's down $1. I don't know which, right? Because, again, we have electronic trading and non-electronic trading. If you go out to our website today, you'll see gold's up $4.20. But either way, we had a new GDP number, a revision to the second quarter. Instead of 4.1, got 4.2. We'll take it. It wasn't a lot, but we'll take it, 4.2. We had some housing numbers that we're going to get to, and you know which way they've been going. We got more of the same. I'll give you those as well. But the thing that we're going to talk about today is how they did it. How they took away your pensions and gave us the 401k so they could take it all away from you. This is what we're going to talk about today. The people that invented it had no idea what it was they were really getting into. Very similar, really, to the NAFTAs and the gas that the president is doing his best to try to limit today. Patriot Radio News Hour will be back after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. How did we get here? And what I mean by here, talking about, let's just talk financially. Do you really think that the American worker willingly gave up the standard pension benefit that all major companies offered in exchange for a 401k? Do you think that's really what happened? And again, you got to really start piecing this whole debt bubble together. And see, the debt bubble, it didn't happen overnight. And we've had some blowouts in the bubble, right? And they've covered it up, right? They've got, think about like a bike tube, right? You got the inner tube. And remember, man, I don't even know if they do it anymore. Back when I was growing up, if you're riding your bike around, right, and it gets a flat, by the time you were like 8, you knew how to go and get the wrench, loosen the bolts, take the tire off, and you had the screwdriver, right, to get the tire off the rim, and you took the inner tube out, and you blew it up, and you got the tube wet so you could see where the leak was, right? And you got the repair kit out. I don't even know if they have those anymore. I don't know. Probably not. That'd be my guess, but maybe, right? And you put the little glue on, and you scored the tire where the hole was, put the glue on, put the patch on, and put it back together again, right? Same thing has happened here. And really, you just go back and you start with the creation of the Federal Reserve, right? And of course, remember, they were originally, you know what they were supposed to do? They were supposed to regulate the banks, right? That was that was the lie they told, right? And if you have ever read G. Edward Griffin's book, Creature from Jekyll Island, you know what I'm talking about. This was a devious plan. It had ever been found out what they really had done. Right? The the people on the banking committee that started it, the senator, I think it was from Rhode Island, right, that was married into the, the Rothschilds and all the Illuminati family, J.P. Morgan, right? They had also, married into congressmen and set up the meeting in secret to get themselves, in charge. And the real reason they were upset is they were losing deposits. Yeah. As the gold rush of the West and everyone moving out West and all these new banks and people taking their deposits with them, and they wanted to get control back. But they preyed on the fears of, these banks fail and everyone loses all their money and we need this central bank to protect us. Right? Again, eliminating freedoms and all of those things, right? Because the government, let's face it, they don't protect us from anything. Right? They usually, by protecting us, they take something away. In this case, they were protecting us from our wealth. That's really was ultimately what it was. And they started off slowly, right? They created the Roaring '20s, right? They did. Of course, and then they created the crash. And what did they do? They took away the gold, right? And then they created this thing called inflation, right? The printing press. And when the rest of the world, see, they liked it too. They didn't want to be on a gold standard either, right? All the governments loved not having a gold standard because it allowed them to what? Allowed them to go into debt, right? Most people don't know. We didn't run a budget deficit in 1929, 1930, 1931. We didn't have any of that. In today's terms, right, we literally say there was no debt in 1933 from the federal government. But when these foreign governments found out what we were really doing, they got real smart. And they started taking all of their gold back. Because remember, when they confiscated gold from us in 1933, that $20 gold piece, the what I call our bread and butter coin. $20 gold piece, silver eagles, that's our bread and butter. When they took it from us, from the citizenry, they said, you know what? Instead of it being worth $20, now it's worth $35, right? They essentially, right, made the government wealthy, right? Not the citizenry, the government. And they told this to all the foreign governments. And they said, what? This $20 gold piece, and we got bags of them. You're telling me that starting today, you're going to sell me $35 worth of stuff for this $20? They couldn't believe it. Right? And remember, this was also back when America ran huge trade surpluses. Something that probably not in my lifetime will we ever see again. And all these foreign governments, they were sending us all this gold back like hotcakes. We had amassed over 20,000 metric tons, and by the mid-1930s. And then after World War II ended, and of course we rebuilt the world at that time, and after the rebuilding process had come to an end, these foreign governments were like, how much stuff can we buy with this gold piece? And our government was like, well, $35. And they said, you know what? Here's $35. Send me a gold piece back. And by the late 60s, they were sending so much of the gold back. Right? The government didn't want the dollars. See what I'm saying? They wanted the gold. Because they knew what the central bank was doing. And so in 1971, Richard Nixon closed the gold window, essentially saying to foreign governments, you can no longer sell your treasury bills and demand us to pay you in gold, because that was how they did it, okay? They only get paid back in dollars. And the Federal Reserve note at that point became a full floating fiat currency backed by nothing. Right? Just the quote-unquote full faith and credit of the United States government. And then things started to change. We got the invention of the credit card. Yeah. And when I mean this, almost nobody had a credit card in 1971. Nobody. Credit card debt got born. Because remember, debt is what they're about. And of course, inflation and devaluation and essentially getting into your pocket. And then when credit card debt wasn't enough, they started looking where? At the stock market. The Federal Reserve, one of their favorite things. And they said, man, how do we get more people to buy debt? Wall Street. Because remember, when you're buying a stock or a bond, right, all of those things, you're buying a debt instrument. And one of the things that business would complain about to these central bankers, right? These central bankers that sit there and talk about how they need to have, we don't want to be audited. We need to have our independence, complete independence. Yet they wine and dine and are in the conference rooms of all of the major companies out there. And they talked about how terrible it was that all of these workers got these pensions. And we got to pay for them. They gave their blood, their sweat, and their tears. And they worked here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, back when you could do that kind of stuff. Right? Another one of those unintended consequences. And just think what we could do if we didn't have to give them that money. And lo and behold, they got some people to come up with a new instrument. It's called the 401k. And see, now they didn't tell these people that were creating it what they were really going to do. Right? Just like, remember NAFTA and GATT when it first came out, right? They even had the union guys say, yeah, we want it, right? Of course, now they're like, well, that was the dumbest thing ever, because you didn't really know what it was they were trying to do. Which is the same point I made, which is why you listen to this show. I know for a fact that Eric was out here at that time coming out on the air and telling everybody that would listen what a horrible idea that thing GATT really was and what it was really going to do. And he was right. I mean, he was probably, and I don't know, because this was in the, 1995, 1996, 97, and I did not know him yet. We weren't even on the air in Phoenix back then. And he was probably underestimating what was really going to happen. So here in the early 80s, here are these people, and I don't know, I forget which major institution they worked for, but one of the big Wall Street firms. And they created this thing that was supposed to supplement your pension. That was the guys that they created this thing, because they knew, well, Wall Street's risky. So, you can't have your whole life savings in it, because you're going to get devastated. It'll be terrible. So this was supposed to be a supplemental piece. And that was how it got presented, and this is how they got things approved, right? The SEC, yeah, we approved the 401k and we do all this stuff, and now, right, the government wants every business in the world to offer it to you and all this stuff, right? This is how it all started. And as soon as they created that instrument, what did businesses start doing? They dumped the pensions. Most people in America, here's the sad part, most people in America that have a pension are getting it from the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corp because they just default on them. They get bought out, and the other company says, that's a debt obligation. Let's write that off and hand it to the government and get rid of it. The rest of you that hasn't happened to yet, right, all of you out there, you know what I'm talking about, right? You all hope, man, I hope I get through it. Right, maybe I can. I want to live a long life, but I hope that it stays together long enough that I pass before it goes under. So they create this 401k, which essentially forces you to do what? You gotta prepare, right? You gotta save for retirement. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report, a daily broadcast from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, and we're upholding the legacy of Phyllis Schlafly, a constitutional attorney and articulate voice for traditional values for more than 70 years. Now, here's the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Ed Martin.
For all the left's cries about supposed right-wing bigotry, hatred, and violence, the perpetrators of nastiness, discrimination, and even physical assault in the news are liberal Democrats. From California Representative Maxine Waters to the Red Hen owners to the hyperbolic fake news media, liberals across the country are being encouraged to discriminate against and even heckle or assault Trump supporters in public. An egregious recent story of abuse comes out of San Antonio, Texas, where an irate man berated and attacked 16-year-old Hunter Richard. Hunter's crime? He was sitting with his friends at a fast food restaurant sporting his Make America Great Again ball cap. Video emerged of a 30-year-old man identified as Kino Jimenez approaching the teen and his friends at their table and launching into a profanity-laced tirade and then ripping the cap off Hunter's head. The video shows the teen calmly responding, "I support the president," before he was abruptly cut off by Jimenez throwing a drink in his face. The teens sat stunned as the man continued his profanity toward the door, gloating that the hat would go great in my fireplace. The man, once identified, was arrested and charged with theft of a person, but the fallout didn't stop there. It seems he's now lost his job due to the incident. This is just the latest in a long string of Trump supporters being ridiculed and verbally or physically assaulted. From the president's own press secretary and cabinet members down to the most innocent of high school students, the left's violence and hypocrisy knows no bounds. This hatred is being fueled from the very top by the media and liberals like Representative Maxine Waters, who encouraged a California crowd to seek out Trump officials in public places and shame them. Americans would do well to watch for themselves who the true perpetrators of discrimination and violence really are. As for Hunter and his friends, justice was followed by an even sweeter reward for their calm response to hate. Both Donald Trump Jr. and Trump's campaign manager reached out to the boys and supplied them with new hats, signed by the president himself.
This has been the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. It's no secret that globalists are bent on destroying Western culture. Whether the threat comes from inside or outside our borders, America must be protected from cultural Marxism and those who would deny American sovereignty. We're seeking your insight at phyllisschlafly.com. That's phyllisschlafly.com. And join us again for the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. We're talking about debt and how the central bank, along with their buddies, had to figure out a way to get America to consume more debt. Because that's what they want. Right? That's their whole goal. They live in debt. And why do we have a currency that's not backed by anything? Because they want to be able to print as much as possible. And so one of the ways that the biggest way that they created the biggest bubble in the history of Earth is they forced all Americans to do it. And how did they do it? Well, they created a new instrument. It's called the 401k. Came about in the early 1980s. And without exception, I don't know, and maybe there's one or two. Unless you work for you still got the government workers still get one, okay? But that's about it. And depending on where you live, you may or may not, because more and more governments are trying to prevent that, right? Because they already can't pay for them anyway. They all dumped their pension. See, remember now, this was supposed to be a supplement to your income. Of course, they knew this is going to be a huge savings for us. We're going to line our pockets. Right? They didn't pay you more for robbing you either, did they? Hey, you know what? We're going to screw you over here. We're going to get rid of these things called pensions, and we're going to replace it with you having to risk your money in the stock market and hope it goes up. And that's going to be worth a whole lot less to you. So here's a whole bunch of money. They didn't do that. Remember the question I started with. Do you think we willingly gave it up? So you got to remember, they just didn't do it in secret. They got all their buddies in the mainstream media to tell you how great these 401. Better, they still do, right? I mean, they're 401k crazies, right? Anybody that doesn't invest in a 401k is a moron. I mean, that's the message, right? It used to be so. It was so. You want to know why it was such a good? It was such a ripoff. It happens today, but not like it used to. When it first came out, what were these companies doing? We're going to match it. Right? The first company that I had it with, they matched dollar for dollar. Yeah. If you put 3% of your income in there, we'll match it dollar for dollar. That's how big of a ripoff it was, right? This is how much they were really saving by screwing all of us out of pension. And, of course, now when the crash happened, right, a lot of that went away. And there's, I think, not all companies, but most companies give you something, a quarter. For every dollar, we'll give you a quarter or 50 cents or whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. Right? Because it's nothing close to what they would have paid with a pension. And forced pretty much everything. Because, like I said, you got to do, right? You got to save something. Okay, I'll do it. Right? And the mainstream media tells you have to do it. And the realities are you'd probably be better off, you'd be better than what you're putting in your pension into our metals plan month after month, week after week, year after year. You'd end up in the same spot and probably, a lot better, especially when crashes happen. And you think about when the crashes happen and it wipes you out. You had $100,000 in your 401k, and remember this too. Here's the other cruel part. They tell you how much money you got in there, and what they don't do is they don't break it up into the two piles for you. Hey, here's what you have, and here's what you owe the government. Right? They'll just say, no, you got $100,000. Yeah, you got $100,000. Really, you only got 70. Right? But shh, let's not tell them that. But we want them to think they've got 100. And they got everybody to what? Buy debt. And remember that old adage that used to be too. Remember, when you got to 55, you're supposed to buy bonds because stocks are too risky. and now the bonds aren't worth crap. Right? Like, now what do they tell you? You tell your financial advisor, yeah, I think I'm going to buy Treasury bonds. What? Are you kidding me? You're not doing that. Want to buy that? I mean, maybe they'll tell you to buy Illinois bonds because they pay something, but, it's Illinois. 401k balance was $100 and something thousand. And I was thinking, what a load of bull that is. But then they got to it. They said, but the median price for people, and these are people getting retirement age people, okay? Just so we're clear. The median person retires with $11,000. That's it. Now, first of all, think about $100,000, their first number, the average number. And how long are you going to live on $100,000? Okay? How long? But you got that instead of a pension. Now you think about the median, $11,000. That doesn't even last you a year. For most people, that doesn't even last you 6 months. What's the difference between the two, double? Average and median. Well, the difference is the average one can be driven up by a very few amount of people having huge ones. The median, you take the person with the lowest one and the person with the highest one. Then the second lowest, second highest, third lowest, third highest, fourth lowest, fourth highest, till you get down to where you hit right in the middle. 50% of the people have less than this amount. 50% of the people have more than that amount. That amount is $11,000. How do you feel about the 401k now? Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. U.S. Silver Eagles today, $365 a roll. There are no back dates. Again, anywhere. $5 and $10 Indians, none of those out there either, anywhere. You're starting to see all of this stuff seemingly disappearing. Today, though, I was able to, we work hard here. U.S. $10 Liberties. These are in stock both here and in Colorado. Both of these, they are in stock. U.S. $10 Liberties, $665 today at 800-951-0592. That is the toll-free number. Take the time and make sure you add to your wealth insurance because you're going to need it. Look at gold. By the way, gold now looks like it's getting ready to go positive. It depends, again, where you're looking. Right now, I got gold at $12.07. Silver's at $14.75 now, so silver's come back as well. 800-951-0592. U.S. $10 Liberties, $665, and they are for immediate delivery here and in Colorado. At 800-951-0592. Yeah, so like Kitco's got gold up $5. So just so you know, silver up 5 cents as well, $14.75. Platinum's up 7. Palladium's up 20. Rhodium is unchanged. We were talking about what they do. Who is they? We're talking about the Federal Reserve, their banker buddies, the creation of the 401k. Which has allowed them to create this huge debt bubble. And, every 10 to 15 years or so, they whack you hard. And then seemingly, the hardwood frustrates me. is 401k balances now. They're finally, and of course they play the trick, the average trick. And I hope I shed some light between the difference between average and median. And essentially, when you use the median, nobody's got any money in those things. Because let's face it, everything has gotten so ridiculously expensive, and then they tell you it isn't. Right? There's no inflation. Right? And of course, remember Jay Powell, we're not worried. That's fine. Piece of cake. Why do I care? I'm rich. I don't even have to buy food like normal people. I get the Federal Reserve food pricing, which a bowl of soup's like 25 cents. So there's no inflation. And they trick us into thinking that they're giving us a great deal. Right? They want you to think that this 401k, which, and by the way, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't have one. We putting all your money into gold and silver is just as foolish as putting all your money into Wall Street or putting it all into housing. What you need to do is you need to have that wealth insurance to go with it. Because when you're, and when you lost when your 401k went bust, right? When your 100,000 turned into 30,000 during the Great Recession, as they call it, your wealth insurance did real well. And I'm telling you right now, all the signs are there. Right? Wall Street, doesn't matter what the news. Example, I told you there was another house's 7th straight month in a row pending home sales fell again. Now it's starting to get serious. Now, it was one thing to be down 1%, 2%. Now we're getting ready. We're almost to 2.5%, almost 3% down year over year. That's a big down for housing. And you start seeing these things where Wall Street seemingly, it's fine. We don't care. We don't care about anything, right? Everything's good. Nothing's bad. We talked, what was the record short positions that were in place in gold and silver, right? These are the buying times. And then you throw that in with there's nothing out there. All the backdate silver eagles all of a sudden went away. Right now, all of a sudden, and you know how it goes on the gold side, right? The Indians are the leaders, right? First, the Indians disappear, right? Then the fractional gold disappears, and the 20s disappear, and then and we've already seen, right? Premiums are already rising, and you know what comes next? The big move. Make sure you get in before it happens. U.S. $10 Liberties, $665. Rolls of Silver Eagles, $365 at 800-951-0592. I do have some rounds. I have some rounds in both places, in Colorado and here in Phoenix Live. If you want to do some rounds, I just thought of it. I didn't even think I should have thought about that before. If you want some rounds, I had to use my calculator because I'm running out of fingers and toes here. Rolls of rounds, $350 on a roll of rounds. So if you want rounds, $350. Silver Eagles, $365. U.S. $10 Liberty, $665. So they steal our pension, right? And Wall Street, of course, we didn't know we were going to do that, right? Then you think about after that, they get you into the 401k, right? Then they come up with NAFTA and GATT, right? It's going to be great for America. Of course, then what happened? More of the pensions went away. A lot of the high-priced manufacturing jobs went away. What did we replace that with? We'll talk about that next. 800-951-0592. So not only did they dump pensions from you, then they came up with the great NAFTA and GATT, which helped a lot of companies get rid of more pensions, put a lot of companies into bankruptcy, took away a lot of really good not just were they good paying jobs, but these were jobs where people stayed for decades, right? The manufacturing jobs. And then they created, almost the sickening thing, which is today's job economy, the independent contractor. Yeah, how about that job? Now we don't even have to pay insurance benefits. A lot of that stuff used to not be legal, right? People don't realize this. They just take it away from it. It's not like you don't get to vote for it, right? And this is part of the problem, right? Most people don't know. Well, I didn't vote for that. There was no vote. And they just lobbied the SEC and the Federal Reserve to get it done. Like I said, this is why we needed to be in there. Right? Could you imagine if we had Ron Paul, and of course he was warning anyway, but people don't listen, but coming out and saying, hey, by the way, this is what they really want to do. People would have been up in arms. And now everybody's broke. How about, and I'm going to give you a great case in point. Unpaid medical bills. When we know this is one of the big causes of bankruptcy filings, right, which used to be covered by pensions. According to the latest reports, more than 2% of adults have had medical bills under $200 sent to collections. Over half of the annual medical collections are for less than $600. Oh, right. I'm just saying, this is just the funny part about it. This is how poor most people really are. And I talk about it all the time. Most people can't afford $400, and all of these other things are just a microcosm of the society that we live in. Think about this, okay? You don't have a pension. Most of the jobs today, you don't even get health benefits. You're a contract worker. They invented credit card debt, student loan debt, right? There's no student loan debt either. 1971. Right, we got credit card debt now, student loan debt on top of auto and car debt. Of course, the average automobile in 1971 was probably like $2,000. And they're trying to tell you that they've given us prosperity. The national debt's almost $22 trillion, right? The Federal Reserve lies about inflation to you every day, and this bubble just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's getting ready to pop. And most people, and I agree, the last pop was bad. Let's not kid ourselves. It was bad. But every pop gets bigger, right? 1987, that hurt. People didn't like that one. Tech bubble, we liked that one even less. Then the Great Recession. Now we're getting ready for the bond market to pop next. 800-951-0592. U.S. $10 lib, $6.65. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day. Go back to your boring lives, and we'll be back tomorrow.